Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is Weeknights. And man, it's a lot to talk about today.
That
A
is.
lot has happened. Oh, I'm sorry, you first.
Oh no, I was just agreeing with you that there's a lot to talk
Yeah,
about.
a lot has happened over the last couple of days. We don't have enough time to cover it all today, but we will be discussing it over the next couple of days. And so I guess we start with the elephant in the room. But first, let's start with ourselves. I am JD, aka He Who Pods. Glasses on today, so also rear view mirror.
And I'm Dash, aka Dashing D. Yeah, there's been a lot happening over the last few days. So
Right. The world ended for TikTok.
for
And then it
about
was
11 hours,
right. Right. And then it was resurrected.
very quickly.
People couldn't use a bunch of apps, not just TikTok. CapCut was down, Marvel Snap was down, which is really, really interesting.
Anything that ByteDance owns went down.
Yeah.
And I don't think people realized how far-reaching ByteDance was. I
Right.
didn't know about Marvel Snap, as you said. I knew CapCut, but I guess we were having this very specific conversation about TikTok.
Yes.
So it never occurred to me that I couldn't use CapCut. I use CapCut all the time.
Right.
So I was like, "What y'all mean you can't get into the app?" I also use it like in spurts. I don't I could go like a month without going into the app, which is
Okay.
I'm kind of in one of those lull periods right now where that's just not the thing that I'm doing. So for me, it wasn't a thought. I had to see somebody else say, "Hey guys, so CapCut's going too."
Right.
I was like, "Oh, this is not good because,
Right.
you know, I need to edit some things soon and I don't know how I'm going to do that."
Mm-hmm.
Um, so CapCut is still down. Uh,
I thought it was back.
is it back now? They had said they were working on restoring it yesterday, but it still wasn't up. Um, Also, anyone who, and I
Yeah.
don't
I
know
just
why.
oh wait. Yeah, it says welcome back. Thanks for your patience and support. CapCut is back in the US.
Oh,
You can
good.
continue to
Okay.
create, edit, and discover all of the things you love on CapCut.
Perfect. Whoever deleted the apps off of their phone, which I don't understand why in a matter of hours overnight you would have deleted. That just sounds, to me, that sounds very obsessive compulsive, if you ask me. I just couldn't understand the droves of people who were saying that they deleted TikTok and CapCut so that when it came back, they weren't able
They
to.
couldn't download it.
Right, because it's not in the app stores right now. So
Hmm.
I was really confused, but that's none of my business because I am not one of those people.
Yeah.
I have over 100,000 unread emails. Okay, so you could see what type of time I'm on. Like I'm not deleting the app the moment they shut it
No.
down. It just didn't occur to me to even do that. So
Yeah, I didn't even think that. I never thought, oh, let me delete these apps.
no,
I just was like, oh, okay, when they figure it out, we'll see what happens. Let me give it a few days.
right. I think some people said, which is completely relatable, especially being a content creator. Some people said that it was a storage issue for them. Their phone was like, "Hey, you don't have enough storage," and they said, "Well, I can't use this app, so I'm just gonna delete it."
I can understand
Um,
that.
but I don't know. I don't think that was everybody's story, and I really don't understand why
Yeah,
it was.
it's weird.
But
But yeah, so they went down earlier than they were supposed to, which that was weird. And then people were saying like it was a stunt, it was all these things. And
find that
so
weird.
okay.
I just sorry to interrupt you. I just didn't find that weird because if it's a Chinese company, this is the way I was thinking about it.
They're ahead of us, right?
They're, I believe, 8 hours ahead of us.
I think it's more than that.
So
But yeah.
an 8:30 p.m. shutdown, which is what they had sent to businesses, and that's how it started circulating that it would be 8:30 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
It made sense because in China it was already tomorrow.
Right.
So that was my thought process. I don't know if that's really what it was, but
Mm-hmm.
my thought was it's already January 19th in China. So
Right.
8:30 p.m. on January 18th doesn't it's not that far away from the deadline.
Deadline.
But yeah, people were disappointed. I personally was in the app when it went kerplunk.
Oh no.
So
In the middle of your doom scroll, it just stopped?
okay, so here's what happened. So at about 8:20, at about 8:20, 8:23, I called someone and I was like, oh, and they didn't answer. And I'm like, I really just want someone to like go into it was almost like New Year's Eve. It felt like that. Less than that, it felt like Y2K. It was
Okay.
like, what's about to happen? I don't
Right.
know what's gonna happen. I feel like I shouldn't do this alone. So I picked up the phone and I tried to phone a friend. Didn't get them. But I said, all right, I'm going to stay on the app and see what happens. Because people had all these theories about what was going to happen when the app went down. Some people
Yeah.
were like, it's just going to go black. Some people were like, well, duh, you're still going to have the app on your phone. It's not like your phone is going to self-destruct or the app is going to self-destruct or whatever. In any event, I'm on it. It's after 8:30 and it's still working. And
Mm.
I'm like, oh, okay, we're good. Kind of like Y2K. We thought we were all gonna die or everything was gonna shut down. We weren't gonna have electricity, whatever. Um, that wasn't the case. We
Right.
continued to live
You
our
were
lives very
absolutely
normally
fine. Right.
after the clock struck midnight. But you did
And I
start
just
to
want to say
notice,
adults are fucking dumb.
right?
Because we were kids when Y2K happened.
I
So we
know.
can't take all the blame. But it just was, I remember being a kid and looking like, yeah, no, we're going to be fine, right?
Right.
Like, y'all are creating more worry than need to be.
Yeah, it was. I
Yeah.
always remember how scared people were, and it was like you had to be inside your house, and like you didn't know what was gonna happen. I kind of
People
feel
had
like
like
people thought the
extra
purge was gonna
food and
happen.
candles and
Yeah,
flashlights and lanterns for nothing.
and it was kind of like, well, in hindsight, I shouldn't say then, but in hindsight, it's kind of like, well, y'all thought technology was just going to like plateau, like
And you gotta understand, if you're a young person watching this, the adults thought like their premise was the computers don't know what to do when the numbers hit zero.
yeah,
It was like, well, the computers are not programmed for this. They only go, what happens after 99? They don't know. And we were just like, it'd just say zero. Like, we're just zero. Anyway, so TikTok,
right. Well,
so
I
TikTok did,
was.
oh, finish,
Sorry.
please.
No, I was just gonna say, well, 25 years later, we have this moment, and gradually, I would say between 9 p.m. and about 11:30 p.m. is when the features of the app started to glitch,
Dwindle.
if you will.
Okay.
You were having a hard time refreshing people's lives. Like I was, I was watching a live. At one point, I came out of the live and then attempted to go back into the live. Couldn't. It just kept saying no, you can't go back in. And I'm like, what do you mean? It's clear these people are clearly still in this live. Couldn't go back into live. So eventually, it just kind of um, wasn't refreshing. It was almost like the Wi-Fi was down or something.
Right.
And then around 11 ish, I was out of the app, went back into the app, and that's when the alert that everybody shared all over the internet
Right.
was came up. So that's my story. I was not devastated. I was not crying. The amount of people I saw crying on TikTok before the app shut down was insane. But please take us through the important areas of this because
Yeah, so a bill was presented and it needed to be unanimously voted on. But It was not unanimously voted on. The bill was to just kind of extend the life while the government officials could figure out what was going to happen. Was this dangerous? Was this worth keeping around?
Right.
All these things.
Hmm.
But it was not voted unanimously. It was not. There's stories, but y'all can look it up. So
Right.
then also the Supreme Court was like, nah, sorry, can't help y'all.
Right.
And so,
And we were also on the verge of the transfer of power
right,
between the two presidential administrations. So there was also
mhm,
this looming over
right.
this TikTok thing because it was like, whose decision is it?
And what are they going to do?
And what are they going to do?
And
And the
so,
outgoing president. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
no,
You
go for
take it
it.
away.
Go. If you got the story, go.
No, I was going to say, and the outgoing president decided that it wasn't for him to decide. Um, Basically, what he could have done was extended 90 days.
Right. And he felt, Biden said that he felt extending it 90 days would mess with the transfer of powers because he would be affecting the next person's, Trump's, first 90 days.
Right. And we all know, well, maybe not all of us, but if you know, the first 100 days of a president's presidency
Yeah,
is
they're important.
crucial and really important. So
Mhm.
that is essentially the amount of time that they're given to, I guess, prove themselves, show what their plans are, show what direction they're taking the administration. So this
Right.
would have been a part of that, and
Right.
I honestly understand that. Like,
Yeah, I get it.
you know, it makes sense to me.
I understand it. I understand it. But shockingly to many, Trump came in and immediately was like, oh, yeah, I'll extend it 90 days. No problem.
Yeah,
And so Trump saved TikTok for now.
for now. Um, for now, yeah, he was. It basically came down to the penalties that the app stores would face.
Right.
Someone needed to basically confirm
That they wouldn't get any penalties.
that there wouldn't be penalties.
Yeah.
So and again, that's why when you deleted your TikTok app,
Right. You couldn't get it back.
you couldn't get it back because the app stores wiped the ByteDance apps from their stores to
Mhm.
avoid these penalties.
Right.
Um,
They said we don't want any smoke to
right,
start the new presidency.
and they said, and all listen, they said we've got some place to be in less than 24 hours. We will be in DC in the front
Right.
row
Yeah.
to watch the inauguration. We don't have time to play with y'all, so we just gonna take the apps out of the store
Right.
so we can go on about our business and have our good time in DC.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we'll leave that there. So TikTok is good for 90 days and we'll see what happens after that. And,
Hmm.
you know, there's a lot unfoiling. Yeah, unfoiling. And we'll see how that goes.
Yeah.
But, we're here to talk about TikTok. And we know it's a big deal to us and y'all. And so, although it's not necessarily part of the entertainment industry, it is part of entertainment for our everyday lives.
Yeah.
So we decided to come in here and talk about it. So that's that.
I mean,
Um,
we use TikTok
yeah, that's what
for
I said for
weeknights,
us,
you know?
and
Yeah.
for everybody else. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, listen, business owners use it, creators use it, lots of people use it, including us, for different reasons, and so we felt like we would be doing ourselves and y'all a disservice to not discuss it.
Yeah.
So yeah. So going back, if you don't mind, just for a minute, to Y2K.
Yeah.
Back when we were young bucks, there's something else that was going on, and part of our everyday lives. And Netflix decided to do a doc about it. And
Oh.
that would be a little something we used to go talk about and chant about. And I remember this thing was so popular
Mhm.
that even in school, when some wild shit happened,
Yep.
people would start chanting, Jerry,
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 Jerry, Jerry.
Jerry. Yeah. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the Jerry Springer Show, which was, if you don't know, was a show that was chaotic and some people believe the worst parts of humanity on television.
Yeah.
And so
Just realized.
Netflix did a 2-part doc. It's actually not called Jerry. It's called Jerry Springer, and it's some
Fights, camera,
other
action.
fight. Good job, Dash. High five for that. And so, yeah, fights, camera, action. Because Jerry Springer was known for the fights, the nudity, the chaos, and we saw the Netflix doc. I would like to start by saying 2 things. Number one, I always thought it was fake. I always thought the guests were like made up stories, paid actors, etc. And so it was shocking to me to hear them all say, no, it was not. It was people with real stories and real problems, mostly from middle America, who we got in touch with or got in touch with us and we gave them a platform. I was really shocked to hear that.
Okay.
So that's the first thing I want to say.
Okay.
The second thing I want to say is I had no idea that that show was running until 2018.
It was. Yeah.
I thought once, and also, I'm shocked they didn't mention Steve's show.
Oh, right, because Steve Wilkos has a show or had a show.
His show was a direct spin-off of the Jerry Springer Show, and I thought once his show started, they phased out Jerry Springer, but apparently Jerry Springer was running until 2018. I had no idea that that was going on.
So that I knew. That I knew. The show went through, and they go through this in the documentary, but the show went through phases.
Yeah.
Because what I didn't know is that the show didn't start the way we knew it.
Right.
The show
I didn't know that
started
either.
as, I mean, I guess the show was more comparable to Jenny Jones than,
Right.
you know, than what it became.
Which was the problem, they said. They said it had no character. It had nothing to make it stand out from anything else. The host didn't, and the show didn't. That's what they say.
Right. So it was kind of mind blowing to me. What was mind blowing to me as well was, and then I'll get back to what you said. But what was mind blowing to me as well is that Jerry, that was fabricated.
They were told to chant that.
And I know this, right? Like, I've been to talk shows before. I know that they prompt the audience.
Yeah, they prompted to clap, laugh, stuff like that. I went to a couple tapings of the Maury show as a young man. I was in the audience. It was the weirdest thing ever. But yeah, I was at like 5 tapings of the Maury show.
Why were you at so many tapings of the Maury show?
It was just like a thing that we did at one point, this group of us, and I was there with a parent, by the way. Which, we'll leave that there.
Okay.
But they prompt you, clap, stand up, stuff like that.
I've been to Wendy Williams. Which
I was like, anyway, whatever. Just back to Jerry.
I mean, I was an adult when I went to Wendy Williams.
I was not an adult. I was like 11 or 12 at Maury. Yeah. Scandalous.
Oh, all right. Well, we'll have to unpack that another time. But so I know that, but just the fact that it was just something random that they created is so bizarre to me because it just seems like something that would have happened out of happenstance.
Right.
And again, I know how this stuff works. I know how reality television works. I know how talk shows work. But it never crossed my mind that that particular thing was fabricated. It just didn't. I don't know why. What I will say is about what you said about not thinking that it was paid actors. So I never thought that the people were fake. I thought that the people were real. What I thought was fake was the confrontations.
Okay.
I thought that the confrontations were manufactured, and in a sense they were. But
Right.
I thought I thought that was staged. I thought
Okay.
that was acting.
I
I
thought
didn't.
it all was.
Yeah,
I always thought like, all right, people get paid to come up there and act a fool and they get a check and they go home.
yeah. And then I think the more ridiculous it got, the more I was like, well, this can't be real.
Right. Which is what they say everyone thought in the doc. They're like the
Right.
crazier shit got, the more people questioned the authenticity of the show.
Right. Like the guy with the horse,
Hmm.
or
Crazy.
like I had a whole list that I made, but
I never saw the guy with the horse as a young man.
I didn't
I didn't
either.
even know that existed until the doc.
I didn't either. I vaguely remember Clanfrontation,
Okay.
but that was also incredibly triggering. I was like, just how could you not?
I know. I was watching that and was like, oof, they let this happen? Yikes.
They let it happen and then just like and knew that it was going to spiral out of control and they were like, well, we're here now. I'm pretty sure that was what they said verbatim. I don't remember who said it, but
Mhm.
they were like, well, we're here.
Right.
So we've got to keep moving forward.
That's it.
Um oh my gosh. And then what broke my heart, and this is when I was like, this is why we cannot go back. This is why we have to stay where we are and we have to keep moving forward because people need to feel protected and safe. That story about the father who was ordering his daughter,
Oh my God. That was crazy. I was like,
like,
wait a minute. I thought I heard it wrong. I'll be honest. Because at first, when they
yeah,
got to that story, I was like, wait, the daughter called and said, please help me get my dad to stop ordering me at the escort service. And I was like, no, no, I didn't hear that correctly. Let me rewind it.
I
And I
did the same
rewound it
thing.
and heard the same thing a second time.
I did the
And I
same
was
thing.
like, oh my God, this is crazy. I can't.
Right.
And then I was like, I got to see how this unfolds on the show. And we come to find out it didn't make it to the show
It didn't make it to the show when the executive producer said that he went to
to check on her.
the to her hotel room and realized that they had just had sex. I was
Said
like,
the dad answered the door in a towel.
what the world? This is why this can't exist today.
I mean, it does exist, if we're being honest. It just is not called the Jerry Springer Show. It's called reality TV, which they made sure to tell us in the doc, we are the reason this shit exists. And I think there are people who would argue against that. I think people would say, no, that's not true. But I understood why they said it. And I thought the clips that they showed
Mm-hmm.
of certain shows, which I won't name,
Mm-hmm.
but I feel like those clips,
Mm-hmm.
they feel like these are the shows that we made way for. And I can understand that case of we made nudity and fighting popular. And so today you see it on other shows that are quote unquote reality shows that wouldn't exist without us. And so I understand that. I think there's another side of that argument that people could argue it wasn't y'all.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think you can ignore the impact they had on the world and on television, especially because another thing I didn't know, they dethroned Oprah.
For a hot minute.
Yeah, but that had never been done before.
It had never been done before.
So they took down the queen for 8 weeks, it said, I think it was.
Yeah, they did. I
Taking
think
down Oprah is crazy.
saying that Oprah is crazy. Um, Oprah is also a very smart woman. I'll say that. And
I didn't know Oprah was bashing Jerry Springer show. That caught me off guard.
I didn't know she was either, but I also, even though she did, I didn't like the way they spoke about her. That's a conversation for another day. But I didn't like the way they spoke about her.
I felt the opposite. I was like, Oprah, you been ain't shit.
So, okay. And that's fine. But there was a very specific manner in which they spoke about her.
Oh yeah, they were calling her a bitch and acting like she was
That
the
she
Wicked Witch of the West.
that she was inappropriate, and I was like, she wasn't inappropriate. You didn't like what she said, and she disparaged you, yes, but was it inappropriate? No. The reason why I'm saying this is because I feel like they spoke to her behavior, like she had a behavioral issue, and that I didn't like, because that was,
I can see what you're saying.
I was like, oh, is your red hat in your pocket? Like that was the way I took that.
Got it.
It just felt like, if we don't even have to go that deep, but if it was a man who said it, like, would they have said that he was inappropriate? It was just a weird way of describing her, and what she did. Did
I
she
don't think
bash?
so.
Did she bash or whatever? Sure. And I will be honest, I worked for a television network that was in direct competition with Oprah.
Mhm.
And Oprah, over the years, what Oprah has done is, and that's why I say she's a very smart woman. So I don't think she needs defending, because I think that Oprah knows what she's doing when she publicly says things. I think she
Right.
knows that she's poking the bear. I think she knows that, she can possibly tip the scales in one direction or another when she speaks publicly about these things. She did that with the network I worked for. So I understand completely the feeling of, oh, she's coming for us.
Right.
Totally understand that. All I'm speaking to when I say I didn't like the way they spoke about her is specifically the way they spoke about her like she was a misbehaved woman. It was, to me, that wasn't, it wasn't necessary to make the point that they were trying to make. They could have still been negative. They could have still been, I just feel like it doesn't matter. The point I'm trying to make is that I do think that Oprah knew what she was doing when she said what she said about
Yeah, and
that.
that's why I said, Oprah, you been ain't. You was not shit for mad long because this was the late '90s, and they were doing their little show, and their show was taking off,
Right.
and she got wind of it and knew, oh yeah, they're right under me in the ratings, and then she decided, all right, they under me in the ratings, let me shit on them. So I get that. I get their side of, hey, we were just doing our show. We never said anything about Oprah.
Mm-hmm.
We just did our show. And our show was doing well. And all of a sudden, you came for us. So, okay, then we're going to try to dethrone you. And they did.
And they did. And years later, Oprah would say that she would never engage in creating programming, reality style programming, and then turn around and do the exact same thing.
Because Oprah's full of shit. That's what Oprah does.
Maybe differently, right? Like, maybe it's not to the level of needing a Steve Wilkos, or maybe it's not to the level of a Love and Hip Hop, but Oprah definitely went right through that door with everybody else.
That's what I'm saying. Oprah stay lying to people. That's why I said when I saw that, I was like, oh, Oprah been on some foul shit.
Well, I don't think Oprah did anything differently than anybody who thought that it was trashy.
The difference is Oprah's position and Oprah's
Sure,
image.
sure.
That's the difference. If I come out and say, hey, Jerry Springer's show is a piece of shit, people are like, oh, okay, JD says that all the time, no problem. And he's just this guy on this little itty bitty platform
Right.
with an edgy persona. Okay, cool. That's not Oprah's persona or her
And it had
placement.
impact.
Oprah was the queen of television,
Mm-hmm.
and she had this very clean image.
Yes.
And so for the lady who's the queen with the clean image to shit on a TV show, that is what changes the game.
No, I totally understand. I think she was trying to retain her audience. I think she was trying to make
Yeah, so
sure
good for
that
you.
they
I'm glad you
didn't
were
leave.
dethroned, even if it was only for a little while.
Right. So I understand all of that. So I did want to I did want to go back though a little bit to the one story that we didn't touch on.
The passing of Nan.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was really interesting. I did not know about that story. I didn't watch the Jerry Springer show very often, as you can
Right.
tell. But I never knew about this story. I never knew about this death. Um, it's a really sad story, and I feel for the son
Yeah.
who was like, "Yo, they never made this story about my mom. The
Yeah.
story just kept being about the Jerry Springer show." And
Yeah.
every time they brought up my mom, it was them bringing up the Jerry Springer show and kind of talking bad about my mom. And so I felt bad for the son and everything he went through. It's a really unfortunate story. But also, and I remember I texted you this when I was watching it,
Hmm.
the son said he can't have a career and he can't prosper. Why? 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 I'm a little confused. He said by now he thought he'd have a flourishing career and accolades and all of these great things going on, but he can't because his mom died. And I was a little confused by that. I'm like, your mom dying means you can't have a career? I was like, wait a minute. Yeah, it's sad. Everything that happened is sad.
Oh,
I think it's
absolutely.
fucked up. I
Hmm.
think your mom's memory should not be tarnished by the show she went on.
Right.
I think them focusing on the Jerry Springer show and not his mom when the story came up is fucked up. Totally. But let's just pause for just a second here.
Hmm.
You you can't have a good career because your mom died 20 years ago? I'm a little confused by that. Apparently your water bottle was too. I just was like, wait a minute. I was with him. Everything the son said, I was with him.
Yeah.
Everything. He's like, yeah, they came and got me from work and this, and it was really sad. And they never mentioned my mom. And they showed all the newspaper clippings and TV headlines. He was right. Then he just like, yeah, and I thought by now I'd have a flourishing career and this and that, and but I can't because my mom died 20 years ago. And I was like, what? What this guy just say?
Mama didn't come to you in a dream and say get your ass up.
You know what I'm saying?
No, I don't mean to be disrespectful, but I don't understand what that means, and I kind of just left that where it was because um, I don't know what it's like to have to grieve for a parent, and I hope to not feel that for a very long time. But I think sometimes you can get swept up in the tragedy of something. You could get swept up in your grief, um,
Yeah.
no matter how long. Because, I mean, the reality of the situation is yes, life goes on, but some people have a really hard time with loss. And some would even argue that there's certain losses that you don't ever really get over. I've heard people say,
I mean, they say
you
that about
you you
Kanye.
you learn to live without, right? Like you but you don't necessarily actually move on from it or feel better about it, right?
Hmm.
So perhaps that's what's happening with this gentleman. I don't know. I think the story was really crazy, just even how they got to the point where she was murdered.
Yeah.
um it does make you think about the ethics of things like this.
And the legal liability.
And yeah, and they weren't found liable for it, but
Oh, wait a minute. I really like Toby, the producer. I liked all three of the producers that were up there talking.
mhm.
But
I
Toby,
thought they were very
player.
intelligent people.
Toby, player. Y'all going to Jamaica does not stop a subpoena. It could only delay the subpoena.
Right.
Because if they really wanted to give y'all a subpoena, the moment y'all came back to the United States and got off the plane, subpoenas would be handed to all of you.
It's also not a non-extradition country. They could have just came into the country and served you there.
I
That's
was like, what is he talking about? He was so wrong and strong.
remember when Russell Simmons thought he couldn't get served in Bali and they served him anyway. Like,
It's like, what are you talking about?
yeah, yeah. I mean, they can't force him to come back, but they can serve him.
I
Absolutely.
was like, what? He was mad confident. He's like, hey, we never got subpoenas. I was like, because you never was gonna get one, dum dum. Like, what are you talking
Hey,
about?
you thought you were doing something? No, if they need
Like,
to find you, they'll find you.
and yo, Jerry was a horny guy. Jerry was fucking the guests. Jerry was trying to fuck the escorts in Jamaica.
I thought it was really interesting that they didn't stay on that topic and
They just kind of swept
they
over it real
said it
quick.
and they moved on. I
Yeah,
mean,
I
I
wonder is it
respect that
because
they
he
told us.
passed, which they didn't say either. But maybe they were filming it before he passed. But Jerry passed.
No, at the end they put it in the when they do like that little
Oh, okay, okay,
update
okay,
at the end, they
okay,
put that he passed away in 2023.
okay, okay. Maybe I forgot that.
Um
But
yeah.
maybe that's why. Anyway, listen, we're running out of time. I thought it was a good doc. It was
Mhm.
entertaining. It was informative. I thought it was good.
Yeah.
I like that they included everybody that they could from the show, but also like that critic from
Yep.
Chicago, which is where the show was from. I thought all of that was really good.
Mhm.
Um, I love that Toby and everybody involved was real about what was going on. Nobody pulled
Yeah.
punches. And what was the executive producer's name? I want to say Dominic, but I feel like that's wrong.
I don't remember.
Let me pull it up real quick.
I don't remember, but I respected his honesty, and I also think that he was brilliant. I think you can have your opinions about whether it was trash or not, but in order to do what they did, somebody had to ideate that, and he did.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I love TV and movies and whatnot, because it is so fascinating to me that there are people who just sit there and come up with these brilliant ideas that
Right,
turn into gold.
right.
Because say whatever you want to say about it, they had an amazing run. And people were locked
Absolutely.
in. And like you said, you were at school
Richard
saying,
Dominic.
okay, I thought it was Richard, but I wasn't sure.
Mhm.
Um,
I was at school saying Jerry, Jerry,
right.
Jerry. Yeah.
So I think he's brilliant.
Yeah. Richard Dominic is a diabolical genius.
Yeah.
He's
And
also a
he
little
knew
full of
it too.
himself.
What'd you say?
I say he's also a little full of himself, but
I
I
I
mean,
guess we said it. We basically said the same thing at the same time.
yeah, but I
Um,
can see why though. Like, look at the success he had.
right, and you have to have a certain level of gumption
Yeah,
in order to execute on certain things. If you don't,
right. And I think one thing that the doc did a good job of highlighting was that no, they didn't give a fuck about those guests. They only cared about the ratings. And I don't think we should end this without saying that
yeah, they
because
were
it was
honest.
very clear, both from the producers, Dominic, the things that happened after that. Hey, we paid you to come do this show. We gave you the limousine, we gave you the hotel, we gave you all the good treatment. We got what we needed out of you, and we sent you on your way.
And then when
We
they
didn't
didn't,
care about you. We just cared about ratings.
right, and then when they didn't get what they wanted, they threatened them with no return home.
Yo, leaving Nan to like just find her way home because she won't fight is fucked up.
Yeah, but
Poor
that's what
Nan.
they did. They let it be known that they were telling people, sorry, we can't help you get home if you're not going to
That's
fulfill
foul.
your end of the agreement.
That's foul.
Yeah,
Because if I didn't say verbatim, I'm coming to fight, I don't think I should be held to a fight.
right. But those, have you ever seen one of those contracts
No.
before? So there's this account. This will be the last thing I say, but there's this account um, that is dedicated to like Married at First Sight. It's like a fan. It started out as a fan page and then became like, I don't know. The person is now kind of woven into the whole thing. Like people send tips, people tips, people send spoilers and things, like people that are actually involved with the show. The person has gotten their hands on contracts that have been signed by cast members and whatnot. The language in these contracts is actually kind of crazy.
Oh
Like
yeah, I
the
mean,
fine print in these, but specifically for these television shows,
mhm,
is crazy.
mhm,
So I'm sure it was in there somewhere.
probably.
I'm sure it was in there somewhere, but the average person, especially some of these people who they made it very clear, some of these people could not afford it if you told them you weren't going to send them home.
Right.
They
Including
couldn't.
that.
Yeah, they were, and they knew who they were inviting to come.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. That's the dirty side of uh, television,
Television.
and but I do think, last things, serious last thing. What I wanted to go back to was when you said, when you were talking about whether it impacted reality television or as we know it today. And I did want to say this, the part that you didn't mention that I think is really important is the producer involvement. And I think that might be what they're talking about specifically, where the producers are involved in manipulating the stories. So even though these people
Okay.
are actual real life people, and even though their situations are real life situations, they're basically coaching them in the green room to get what they want out of them.
Yeah.
And that
I've
happens
heard
across
I've heard
all reality
first-hand
television.
accounts of Love and Hip Hop where they're like, yeah, you have to do this or you're not getting your pay for the day. Or even though it's the last episode you're on, if you don't do this, we're not paying out the rest of your contract.
Right.
Yeah.
Or like something as simple as, there was a fight last night when the group went to the club, and nobody was allowed to talk to anyone else until the camera showed up the next day and put those two people back into a room with each other. Like
Yeah.
that, it's like down to those details are is producer manipulated. So I think in that
Yes, you are
sense,
correct.
perhaps they were, I don't know who started it, but I could see how they would have been the ones that, kind of moved the needle when it came to that. So that's all I have
Gotcha.
about. So yeah.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's our show. This is Weeknights. Thank you for being here. Let us know your thoughts on what's going on with TikTok, if you watch a Jerry Springer Netflix show. And yeah, plenty more to cover this week, but we're out of time. So we'll be back tomorrow. Adios.
Hi.